the intensity, the consequences are much different. You're playing for something in the very short term, a championship, and, in our situation, we're playing to survive.
It's more intense out there. Everything's, amplified a little bit. Mistakes seem to, make a little bit bigger difference, and big plays make a little bit bigger difference. So everything's just, it's a little bit bigger and better than the regular season.
I feel to a degree we've been playing playoff hockey, all along. In our case, we have to go on the road, and we were able to garner a lot of points on the road down the stretch in Hockey East, so that gives us a fair bit of confidence.
Can't take any minutes off this weekend, any shifts off this weekend, because they're going to be the same way.
If there was one thing, it would absolutely, positively be turnovers.
Every game's playoff hockey, but I think just things get turned up a little quicker. Everyone's awareness has to be a little tighter, and every game's big. We got to go up there and we got to play our game because they're going to be ready for us just like we're ready for them, and I think it'll be a great weekend.
The UMass Lowell Hockey Riverhawks take on the Catamounts of the University of Vermont. This weekend it is the opening round of the Hockey East Tournament, one of 4 quarterfinal matchups. It is a best-of-3 series. It will be played at the Gutterson Fieldhouse in Burlington, Vermont. This is the Riverhawk Playoff Preview with Jonathan Albert. I'm Bob Ellis. First time these two teams have met in the postseason. They have met 3 times during the regular season and twice less than a month ago. Do we learn anything from the past history? Do we learn anything from the most recent meetings between the two?
The one thing that I think about is how even and how close these two teams are. And they split the season series this year, too.
How even? How close are they?
Well, 1-1-1 was the series, this year. Both teams getting a win on the road. Vermont getting a 3-1 win back in November, and then the Riverhawks going up and getting a 3-3 tie a couple of weeks ago in Burlington, and then the 1-0 win. But, both teams right around 3 goals a game. Both teams right around 2.5 goals against. The shots for and against are pretty even. Power plays are very similar. Really, the only statistical difference between the two is the penalty killing, which the Riverhawks have a decided advantage. But even historically this season, the all-time series between these two teams has been pretty close, outside of Vermont, getting the sweep last year.
First off, Vermont, what are their strengths?
I would say they're a good skating team. They're very structured in how they play, very disciplined. Both of these teams don't take a lot of penalties. The power plays, like I said, a minute ago, are both very good, so you want to stay out of the penalty box against the Vermont team, and especially at home because they play a much more wide-open style at Gutterson. They really try to push the pace. But one thing that I noticed when we played up there a couple of weeks ago is they really tried to neutralize the transition game of the Riverhawks. So that's something that I think, because they're so structured in their game, that could be a strength for them if they're able to neutralize that part of the game for the Riverhawks.
Certainly their forwards are their strength. Victor
Absolutely.
Stahlberg is one of the finest players in Hockey East. He's one of the most dangerous offensive players. Peter Lennis, one of the fastest players in Hockey East. Brian Roloff, who had the hat trick in the Friday night game against UNH last weekend. An outstanding offensive player with terrific speed, a pesky forechecker, and they've got a lot of offensive depth, maybe second only to Boston University.
They got 5 guys with 22 or more points this season, led by Victor Stahlberg with 40. But, very good scoring depth up front from this hockey team.
If they've got a weakness, my guess is it is on defense. Certainly when we saw the Riverhawks at the Gutterson Fieldhouse a couple of weeks ago, they put pressure on that defense. That defense turned the puck over. If you listen to Coach Kevin Sneddon talk about the frustration last weekend against the University of New Hampshire, he points to turnovers. Turnovers may very well dictate what happens in this series. Bottom line, are there other weaknesses, or is that the place the Riverhawks have to attack?
I think that's the primary place that the Riverhawks need to attack, but at the same time, their goaltender, Medor, is a freshman. How is he going to handle playoff hockey? He gave up a lot of goals last weekend. What's his mindset going into this weekend with the stakes even higher? That could potentially be a weakness, but I do think that the primary aspect that you attack is their defense.
But could Medor be a strength and protect that defense? They make mistakes. He can save their butts, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. His numbers this year are pretty good. I think the one thing that surprised me looking at their numbers as a team, they only have 1 shutout this year, which is something you think about a Vermont team, and especially when you watch them play on the road, you think this team must have a lot of shutouts because they're so tight and they lock it down defensively. They get a lead on you. But absolutely, Medor could be a guy that steals the show for them if their defense coughs up the puck and that sort of thing.
The Riverhawks, what are their strengths? Defense that transitions the puck extraordinarily well, I think, has got to be at the top of the list.
No question about it. That is number 1 on the list. And the defense as a whole has played much better as of late, 1 through 6. Certainly Nick Schaus has had a fantastic year all year, but I think other guys have really stepped up. Capraro has played very well lately for this hockey team, and really top to bottom. You don't want to single anybody out or leave anybody out in that sense. But I'd also say special teams are very much a strength of this Riverhawk team. The power play's been very consistent all year. 34 goals overall, 26 goals in Hockey East games. They got a goal up in Burlington a few weeks ago. And then the penalty kill. We've talked a lot about it over the last few weeks. weeks, how good that's been. That's certainly a strength going in. The best penalty kill in Hockey East. And they got a shorthanded goal in Vermont. So I think both aspects of the special teams are something certainly that the Riverhawks have a lot of confidence in and would be a strength going into this weekend.
What's the weakness? And my guess is, having watched this hockey club this season, there were nights they just can't put the puck in the ocean.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Stand on the end of the Santa Monica Pier, push the puck over the edge, and somehow it'll hit the sand, not the water.
Yep.
Is that a huge liability going into the postseason?
It can be, because like we talked about, a potential strength for Vermont being Medor. If he stands on his head and steals a game, all of a sudden, if you can't put the puck in the net, get it past him, that could potentially be a weakness. Who's the go-to guy in this team? Somebody needs to step up and really take charge offensively on this hockey team. I mean, there's a lot of depth in terms of good offensive players on this team. We talk about it all the time. Go-to players on certain teams. Certainly Stahlberg would be that guy for Vermont. Do the Riverhawks have that guy?
Let's compare the goaltenders. We've talked a bit about the freshman, Rob Medor, between the pipes for Vermont. No, he hasn't been through the playoffs before, but I'm not sure it's going to make a difference. This is a guy that won the starting job when the year began.
Absolutely.
He and Spillane were alternating. He stepped forward. He said, I'm the guy, and he has been the guy for them. We assume we'll see him all 3 games. Riverhawks, on the other hand, a goaltending tandem that in most weeks each has gotten a start. Nevin Hamilton and Carter Hutton. 3 shutouts for Hutton, 2 for Hamilton, 5 for the hockey club this year. Strong defense in front of them. Is there a difference when you compare goaltending? Does one team have an edge?
It's really hard to say. I mean, I think to some extent, maybe the Riverhawks do, only from the standpoint that they have possibly the best 1-2 punch in the league. If Carter Hutton starts on Friday night, which we don't know who's going to get the call, but if, let's say, Hutton starts, he struggles, you got Nevin Hamilton, waiting in the bullpen, so to speak. He can come in and kind of pick you up. If it's the other way around, Nevin starts, he struggles, you got Carter there. If Medor struggles, do they go back to him? Do they go back to Spillane? Medor's been the guy recently for them, so does that mean they don't have confidence in the other guy? I don't know. I mean, it's certainly seems relatively even in terms of when you look at the numbers, but it's hard to say.
As we look to try to define what will be the difference between these hockey clubs, does coaching come into it all? The Riverhawks, we love Blaze McDonald, terrific coach in Vermont. They love Kevin Sned, and he certainly has rebuilt the program after a hazing incident, and that's become a powerhouse. Is there a difference in coaching?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think both coaches are really, very good coaches. I mean, obviously Snedden was the coach of the year in Hockey East last year, and I think when you look at what Blaze McDonald has done with this program here, I don't think you can go wrong with either guy. You and I are around Blaze all the time. We know what he can do. We've seen what he's done with this team. We like the mental makeup of this team, and really I think that starts at the top with your head coach.
Gutterson Fieldhouse, University of Vermont, their home rink, 200 by 90, 4,000 plus fans in there. Is there a distinct home ice advantage for the Catamounts?
Normal situations, I would say yes, because that building, if you get going, you get that crowd into it, it's such a great atmosphere. But for whatever reason, over the last 3 years, the Riverhawks have played really well in that building. So I almost kind of feel like maybe it neutralizes their home ice advantage a little bit. Now, having said that, you go up there and you take 3 out of points up there a few weeks ago. How often can you go back to that well and do it again? You just never know. But I like the way the Riverhawks play in that building.
I like the way they play in that building as well. I think 200 by 90 is a very good size for the UMass Lowell hockey program, the system that the team plays. I think if they get the first goal, home ice for Vermont doesn't make a difference. I think if Vermont gets the first goal, home ice can be a huge advantage. So I'm not sure I answered the question, but a couple of ways to look at it.
Vermont was 10-4-4 at home this year overall, 7-4-3 in Hockey East games. Obviously, one of those 4 losses came to the Riverhawks, and one of the 3 ties was against the Riverhawks. But Lowell's been very good on the road too this year. 9 wins away from home, 8-5-1 record in league games. So really, it almost seems like strength against strength in that situation.
University of Vermont last year won their first round. They got to the Hockey East championship game, winning a semifinal game at the Garden. The Riverhawks haven't been to the Garden in something like 7 years. Does playoff experience under pressure make a difference?
I tend to think it depends on the makeup of the team. I mean, I think this Riverhawk team has been through a lot over the last few years. You go through that 20-game winless streak 2 seasons ago. I think you learn a lot there. You battle your way into the playoffs last year. You fight hard to get to a 3-game series against Boston University. And this year, really, the last several weeks, every game has been so intense, it's like playoff hockey. So I think both teams really have been through it. Certainly Vermont has that experience of winning a playoff round last year, getting to the Hockey East championship game. So we'll see if it turns out to be a factor this weekend.
UMass Lowell versus the University of Vermont, Friday, Saturday, and if necessary, Sunday nights. Who will win this series? That is for the 2 teams to decide. That's a Riverhawk playoff preview.
It's hockey, but it's different in a sense. I mean, mistakes are bigger. I think everything just gets magnified. Playoff hockey, everyone's more intense out there. The adrenaline's going. It's the best time of year. The weather's starting to get warm. People are getting excited, and everything's magnified. The mistakes you make, they're more costly in playoff hockey, and you just got to step your game up that much more.